Welcome back to Game Day Grace, everybody. David Schiele, Cory, Mose, and joining us on the Believers Bench today, a good friend of mine, a Tennessee OG, if you will, actually, Knoxville Sports Hall of Famer. I remember doing a whole story on it. My brother Steve Hamer played for University of Tennessee in Knoxville on the basketball team from 92 to 96, drafted in the second round by the Boston Celtics. It's a pleasure to have you sitting with us right now, Steve. How are you doing today? How's it going?
Never better, man. I'm extremely humbled to be a part of this episode, man. You guys could have chosen many other more qualified people than I, man. So I'm very humbled to join you guys and to talk, man, about all things that are of the utmost importance. We can talk basketball, we can talk sports, but man, at the end of the day, man, we need to talk things that are eternal and not temporal. So very thankful to be on this, to have this opportunity.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to the 90s when you were playing at Tennessee. Just fill everybody in that isn't familiar how you got to Tennessee, because I heard you wanted to play somewhere else growing up. You weren't thinking Rocky Top at all.
Right.
So how you got to Tennessee, how that went. Then the NBA was here, and then it was gone. And so that whole journey, and then how the faith intertwines into all of that.
Yeah, growing up, I'm the youngest of six boys, and was born to the two greatest people that I will ever know, Robert and Gracie Hamer. Had my dad lived just a few months later, 3 years ago, he would have, if he'd made it to January the 16th, a few years ago, they would have been married 72 years. So, everything that I am, toughness and tenacity, every intangible quality that I've got comes from Robert and Gracie Hamer. So I give them all the credit. But, I like to think that I was a planned birth, but I probably wasn't. They had me in their mid 40s, man, and they retired, right? So God gave me the innate ability to be 7 feet tall. There's only, according to Google, man, there's 2,800 7 feet tall or higher in the world alive today. So when you let that number really sink in, right, out of nearly 8 billion people on the planet, you're looking at one of 2,800 people that are 7 feet tall or taller. So, I was blessed to grow pretty quickly. I was 6'5" in the sixth grade, and man, really, really was awkward, really lanky, uncoordinated. But
Time out. 6'5" in the sixth grade. Did y'all just hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. It is wild because, growing up, man, I loved basketball, but that wasn't my thing. My thing was baseball.
Okay.
And I was terrible at baseball, primarily because my strike zone was so big, right? I struck out like all the time. So, I loved watching basketball. I loved all things sports. And then between the summer of my 9th and my 10th grade year, I grew almost 5 inches in like 60 days. So I became 6'10" at that point, and you're like, basketball may be my thing, right? So I got really serious about the game of basketball and tried to perfect my craft as much as I possibly could. Still wasn't very good, right? Had a lot of people tell me that I would never amount to anything. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't look the part. I didn't play the part. I came from a family of humble beginnings, so that's probably where I would, end up being.
Are those coaches telling you these things?
No, it's people.
Okay.
It's people. These people call them naysayers, right?
Yeah.
We all have them. We've had them, and you're going to always have them throughout the duration of your life. And those people, told me that I just wouldn't be good enough. And people would like call me names, and what I'm saying, and and I'd pretend to be asleep just to get away from that. And I also remember as a teenage boy, man, going to and shutting the door in my mom and my dad's bedroom and shutting the door and just crying on their bed. Like, why, what have I done? Right?
Mm.
What have I done to deserve such vitriol from people that don't even know me? And, I use that to fuel me, to propel me to get better, and to work on my craft even more. And I became, when I was a senior, I was Mr. Basketball in the state of Tennessee. I was recruited by just about every school in the country. And one of the things that I always remember is when I got my first letter from the University of Tennessee as a ninth grader, I wondered why me,
Hmm.
because you got to understand, I only saw myself through the lens of what everyone else saw in me. You're not very good. You're not very smart. Sure, you're tall. You've got all these things going on with you. You got an awkward gait in your run. You're just not going to make it. So I just thought, why me? I stored all that away, and I chose to come to the University of Tennessee and played for one of the greatest men that I'll ever know, and Coach Wade Houston. You may well know his son, Allen Houston. Took me under his wing and helped me to grow as a man. And that's when my career really took off. I was an all SEC performer, and scored over 1,400 points in my career. And then it happened June 26, 1996, when I heard the deputy commissioner of the NBA say, with the 38th pick, the Boston Celtics select Steve Hamer. Guys, I thought, first of all, the first thing I did was cry. And it wasn't tears of joy. This was tears of, I can't believe this happened, because I had all these people tell me that you would never amount to anything, constantly, even throughout my college years. So I just cried. But then I also thought that, man, I've made it, right? Like I've
Yeah.
made it to the pinnacle of my sport. I've made it, and I thought that, man, I would play until I'm 60 years old. I'm gonna be the oldest living basketball player known to man. But little did I know, 1 year later, after a knee injury, it was all over.
Mm.
And that's when my life really took off.
And I wanted to just touch on your decision to go to Tennessee. Just reading up on you had, like you said, you had offers from everybody, but particularly Louisville, right? That was kind of like
Yeah,
the other school that you were very considering. And what made you not go to a program who was pretty established at the time? They were
yeah,
having a big run, but then Tennessee, not so much. But it seemed like you wanted to kind of blaze your own trail, I guess I could say, at
yeah,
Tennessee. What made you want
yeah.
to go that route and kind of start a new chapter instead of following what's been going on at Louisville and that success over there?
Yeah, it's very ironic that what you just said was pretty much verbatim, and I'll get into that in just a second. Growing up, I was a huge Louisville Cardinals basketball fan, man. Just Milt Wagner and Purvis Ellison and Denny Crum, and you had all of the mystique that came along with Louisville Cardinal basketball. They won national championships, and then Freedom Hall was just the mecca of college basketball at that point. And so I was pretty decided that if I'd ever gotten an opportunity to play at the University of Louisville, I was going to play there.
Hmm.
And I got a scholarship. And as far as my family knew, my brothers, friends, he's going to Louisville. And all that changed on my official visit when I came here. And when I initially walked into the old Stokely Memorial Gymnasium here, the first person that I saw on that visit was not a Tennessee basketball player. It was not Allen Houston. It was not Lane Wiseman. It wasn't anyone associated with Tennessee basketball. It was Purvis Ellison. And he was standing there and he was talking to Coach Wade Houston. And I walked up to him and I said, "Oh my goodness, Purvis Ellison, man, you're my idol. Like, I idolize you, man. You are it. I try to pattern my game after yours, everything that you do." And I said, "I got to ask you, why are you here?" And he said, "Well, I'm here for you."
Mhm.
I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm here on behalf of Coach Wade Houston to get you to come to Tennessee." And he saw this look of bewilderment in my eyes, and he said, "Well, I want you to blaze your own trail. If you go to Louisville, you can be one of many. If you come here, you can be one of one. You make the decision. And just like that, by the time that recruiting visit was over that weekend, it was done. It was coming to Tennessee. It was coming to Tennessee, and everything. We both know that nothing happens by coincidence. Nothing happens by happenstance. It's all divinely ordered. And when you go back and you look over the totality of your life, you can see that, right? You can see that everything that has happened in your life has happened for a reason. And ever since then, man, I haven't looked back. Now having a wife and now having a daughter who walked across the stage at the University of Tennessee this past May, and a son who's a sophomore here, and a sixth grader who will be here in a matter of years. Man, I'm blessed, man. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Absolutely. And I've had the pleasure of meeting your family, your wife, and your youngest. I met your youngest. I think it was at a baseball game. I'm pretty sure.
It was at a baseball game. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
It was at a baseball game.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you're happy about Tennessee winning the Natty on the diamond. As a baseball fan, as of all, yeah, it was cool. And it would have been a party if I was still reporting up there.
I know.
And of course, Vitello and them got it done now that I'm gone. I said, okay, all right. y'all didn't want to do it when I was there. I want to go back to something you mentioned, though. You said when you were a teenager, people would make fun of you and told you would amount to nothing.
Yeah.
It sounded like your identity was in what other people were telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, believing in whatever, what the word says about you, you were more so believing, okay, here's what people are saying about me, so this must be true, and that's where my identity is. When was that switch between my identity is what other people say and my identity is in Christ?
Yeah. So, when I was done with the game of basketball, or rather when basketball was done with me, I was 23, 24 years old. And as I just intimated a few minutes ago, man, I thought that I'd play until I was 60 years old. I thought they'd wheel me out in a wheelchair and I'd get up, tip it off, sit back in the wheelchair and go back to the bench, right? Cheer on my team. And it wasn't until many years later, man, that I finally understood that God was trying to tell me the whole time, that's not who you are. That's what you did, but that's not who you are. There's a big difference. And it wasn't until I finally listened to what God was saying. And God was saying, Steve, if you think that me, who created the universe, heavens, everything else, would think so little of you to make you play with an object with a circumference of 29.5, how much do you think of me? So then my mind started to really change, because I had just found my identity in the game of basketball, because I thought that everyone had a gift, and my gift was being 7 feet tall. My gift was you made me to play this game of basketball. That's why you made me. And the entire time he's like, no. It's a conduit. I gave you that, and you're going to use that as a conduit. But you know what else you're going to do? As you get older, I'm going to work on you. I'm going to smooth off some of those rough edges, and then you're going to become comfortable in that frame. You're going to become comfortable in that body, and then I'm going to use that conduit to reach others to pull to me, right? Because there's not a day that doesn't go by where someone comes up to me and was like, hey, man, how tall are you? Or tell me your story. You know what that does? That just opens up a door to now share my faith, to now talk about the God who made me. Sure, I played a game of basketball, but that's such a small portion of who I am. And once I finally understood that is my true identity in God, in Christ, not with basketball, man, my life really, really changed and grew rapidly. Doors opened that I thought would never be open, right? To sit here in this office at the University of Tennessee and to be able to talk about my faith, to be able to share my faith, to be able to develop a rapport with our 600 student athletes, right? Our coaches, that's huge. That's a huge platform. And when I say that I'm blessed, man, that doesn't even resonate. It's not even close. I'm more than blessed.
What was that period like between your basketball career ending to you recognizing your identity in Christ and who he calls you to be? Between that waiting period, what was that like for you?
It was hard. And man, I went through periods of like just being depressed, man. Just like,
Hmm.
what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with the rest of my life? What am I gonna do? Um, but sometimes God has to settle you to be able to converse with you. God
Hmm.
has to be able to get you to slow down just enough, to quiet your spirit just enough, to be able to tell you, look, I got so much more in store for you if you will trust me. You know, when I played basketball, man, I always use God as a backseat driver, right? If I needed a good game, if I needed a 25 and 10, man, I'd pray, and God would come through. And then the next day I'd be like, no, God, I got this. Got it. I got it. You just in the back, I got it. But not realizing that God wants a relationship.
Hmm.
He doesn't want just an acquaintance. Like he wants a true relationship with you. And it took some calming of my spirit. It took me to have some alone time to go through some things, man. I went through some valleys that God had to take me through to be able to get me to understand that, man, I've got something better for you out there, and I'm going to open some doors, and it's going to blow your mind. And I'm thankful for that. Very thankful.
In what ways has he blown your mind since basketball was done with you, as you said?
Uh, Let me count the ways, man. Uh, you know, I on May the 9th, 1999, I just moved back from Nashville to Knoxville, and I was here with some friends, and I was sitting at Old Charlie's on Cumberland Avenue, which is otherwise known as the Strip, and there were hundreds of people there, man. It was a happening spot. Friday night, just hundreds of people there, and we were sitting outside on the patio, and I had to go to the restroom, so I excused myself. There were, three guys. Excused myself, and I had to walk through the door to get to the inside to where the restroom was. Well, when I opened the door, there was a young lady standing at the threshold of the door. We have now been together since May the 9th, 1999. That young lady's my wife. Um, and you talk about divinely ordered steps, right? Just God putting little seeds and planting these seeds and just taking you where you're supposed to be at the right time. Um, but having her having a stable environment in which I started going to church, man, regularly. I started going Sunday mornings, and then all of a sudden it was Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and then all of a sudden it was, man, I want to be in church every chance I can be in church, and I want to listen to the word, I want to learn the words, man, and I want to further my relationship with Him, but man, just the moments in which I never thought were possible, like being a part of the Great Knoxville Sports Hall of Fame.
Hmm.
I would have never thought that had been possible, right? Having the opportunities that I have on this campus right now, I never thought that was possible. What I didn't tell you before is that ever since I could remember as a child, um, I marveled at TV commentators, guys that did sports, man, that were courtside reporters and all that. And I've always wanted to do that. Well, well, guess what? God has opened up that door, and now I do it for Tennessee basketball. Man, I travel with the team, and I do some color work on the SEC network, and so God has just opened up
Hmm.
that door, man, and just again having kids that are in school here that I get to see and be with every day, man. That is a huge blessing. The opportunities to travel and to represent our school, man, it's incredible.
And I was just interested in you speaking about how you went through that phase after meeting your wife, and well, at the time not your wife but your future wife, and starting to get that desire to go to church, that desire to learn more about the word. In Ezekiel it talks about that in the Bible, how you change the heart of stone to a heart of flesh, and then you'll start to get those desires. So what do you feel like was that turning point for you to start to build those habits, and what made you want to start following God at that level?
When I met her, um, it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that she was about her business, man. She's gonna be in church, right? So either you're gonna get with it or you're gonna get without me. And you know, um, once we started dating, I'll never forget. So we met on May the 9th, 1999, and on December the 31st, 1999. You guys may remember Y2K.
Hmm.
Yeah,
We thought the
yeah.
world was going to shut down, economies were going to collapse, government coups, that type of stuff, right? So um, this is when I knew that she was real, and I needed to follow suit with um, um, becoming more of a Christian, right? I was planning like, okay, what are we going to do this day, right? This is could be it. What are we going to do? We're going to go out and party. What are we going to go, have dinner or whatever? And she said, this is about 6 o'clock. She said, Steve, I'm going to church. And I said, what do you mean? You going to church tonight? What? It's Y2K. Like, let's live it up. She's like, well, Y2K or not, I'm going to church. Are you coming? And I said, no, 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 I'm not going to church, man. Me and Dick Clark, we're gonna hang a little bit. We're gonna ring in the new year together. I'll just see you. I'll see you later on. And so sure enough, she left and she went to church. And something strange happened after she left, because I walked past a mirror in my bathroom and I caught a glimpse of myself, and I turned around and I looked at the mirror, and I had this thought: where are you going to be if God were to come back tonight?
Hmm.
What would you be? And it was like this moment, this epiphany, like, oh my goodness. I, you know, and I hurriedly got dressed, man, and I got to her church, and I've been in that church ever since. First Apostolic Church here in Knoxville. I've been in that church ever since, man, and so I credit a lot of that to her, because of her faith, because of her beliefs, because of how important church was to her, right?
Hmm.
And now we have in turn passed that along to our children, because the greatest lessons that we can teach our children is our faith, is to be faithful in the house of God, is to try to always do things the right way. But our greatest job is to lead them to God. And so with all of that being said, man, I have to credit my wife with man teaching me, right?
Yeah.
And bringing me, and that the house of God, man, is the number one most important thing in my life. Period. Period. I got to be there, man, because I need it. I need it every Wednesday. I need it every Sunday morning. I need it every Sunday night, man. Period. Most important thing. So I credit a lot of that to my wife.
Man, I love that. That was a word right
Yeah.
there. You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah, real
He got
quick.
his preaching bag.
You know how and there's a
Fired
lot
up,
of
man.
there's a lot of single dudes right now. Like, man, let me go to the bathroom and find my wife, bro. How come when I go to the bathroom, my wife ain't there? he said, man, I was just trying to go to the bathroom. I met my wife. It's like,
Hey,
man,
man,
I'd
met,
have been,
met my wife, man. That was
been in the
it.
bathroom 1,000 times, man. But now where you are at Tennessee, let the people know, what do you do now? Because you're still evolved, like you're on campus.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what do you do now, and in what ways are you sharing your faith on campus with the young
Yeah.
people?
So I serve in duality, man. I serve as associate director of development, and that's just a colloquialism for fundraiser, right? So I go out and I raise money for our student athletes and for our athletic department as a whole. And then I also serve as our VFL director. I'm the director of our letter winner relations. So I'm responsible for not just when the kids get to campus and they kind of matriculate from their freshman to their senior years, but I'm responsible for any time after that. Bringing them back, making sure that they've got a rapport, making sure they got a bridge to get back, and reunions, and responsible for the Hall of Fame that happens every year, and things of that nature. So that is again, those two jobs, they give me an opportunity to have a much deeper relationship with our current student athletes, because I want to get to know them now, so that when they do graduate and they go on to their professional careers or whatever they do, man, I don't want it to be a cold call, right? I hear from them 10 years from now, and it's like, oh, my name's Steve. I was there. But instead, man, I want to know when they get married and their kids, and develop a relationship with these people. But part of what makes my job special, man, is something that happened just last year, where I had two former Lady Vol basketball players and a current volleyball player in my office. It's a closed door. We weren't talking sport. We were talking God. We were talking Bible. We were talking things, again, that are eternal and not temporal. At the end of the day, man, stats are great, right? But I think that pales in comparison to when you die. You want to hear the two words, well done, right? God is not going to ask you about, I saw that game that you played, and you you had this 30-point game. That was fantastic. That was awesome. He ain't going to do that. Instead, it's going to be, I hope it to be well done. And that's what makes this job, this role, so vitally important, because I get a chance to share with our student athletes. I get a chance to share with, coworkers, man, our faith, and why our faith is so important, whether they accept it or not. That's between them and God. But what God wants me to do is He wants me to plant those seeds, man, and to talk about Him. And that's my job. And that's why this job is so vitally important to me.
Definitely. Most definitely. I wanted to ask this before we wrap.
Yeah.
As a 7-foot former basketball player, how do you feel when you see a guy like Wembanyama bringing the ball up and shooting threes?
Man, I hate it. Jealous. I know we just talked about all these things, fruits of the spirit. I don't believe jealousy is one of them, right?
Yeah.
I'm jealous, man. I think I had like 5 career 3-pointers in college, man. Now I made a couple of them.
Yeah, talk your stuff.
Yeah. But if the truth, be told, those were in desperation. Shot clock's running down, so somebody's got to get it up. But man, when you look at somebody like Victor Wembanyama, man, that is just he is an anomaly, right? He is like you can't defend him because he can't handle the ball. He can play inside, man. He is going to be the face of the NBA for years to come. Years to come. And man, I'm jealous, but I love watching that kid. Love watching him.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. And I've been blessed enough to be able to talk to him a couple of times, because the Spurs have games out here in Austin, 2 or 3 games throughout the year, and so we had some media coverage. And just a humble kid. I mean, he is so well spoken, but he also knows how big he is in the sense of like the way the world perceives him, and he doesn't want that to get to his head. And he has a nice circle around him to keep him humble, and you can just tell that he's not easily influenced. And I think that's something that's very adamant that you don't really see within young players nowadays. And David, I thought you were going to ask him about AJ Griffin. That's what I thought you were going. So
that was my second question. Yeah.
Okay, bet. Yeah, I was just going to ask, from a guy who said he thought he was going to play in the NBA for 60, 70 years, comparing that to now a kid who's been in the league only 2 years and dropping off willingly to be in ministry, and AJ Griffin. Like, what were your thoughts when you first saw that news?
Man, that doesn't happen every day, man, because we it's in our humanality. I think we get so caught up in material things, right? Instead of setting our hopes on things eternal, man, we get caught up in the money and the houses and the cars, and it's all natural, right? Because nothing is ever good enough. I got a huge house, but I want bigger, because the Joneses down the street. I don't even know them. I don't even like them, but they got a bigger house, so I want a bigger house, right? But for you to give everything up. You know, the Bible talks about denying yourself and picking up your cross and following me. I mean, that epitomizes that, right? I'm done with the worldly things. I'm done with the money. I've got more than enough money that I'll ever need. I want to set my things on my mind on what's important. You know, we as humans, we can neither elongate seasons of prosperity, and we can't shorten seasons of despair either. So sometimes we have to go through seasons, man, and God puts us in a season, and you're gonna stay in that season, whether you like it or not, man, until you learn or until I have matured you to a point to where you can get out of that season. But for him to take it upon himself and say, man, you know, there is a season of prosperity down the road that I sure do want to be a part of with these contracts, and just say, I'm gonna forgo that, and I'm gonna get in this season with God right now. Man, that is huge. Just, I wish we had more of it, man. I wish we did. Wish we did. We had more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bold move. That's what Cory and I talked about. Was like that. That is boldness that is so anti-cultural, but it's the same type of boldness Peter had. And he was like, "Yeah, I'll make you a fisher of men. Give up, stop fishing." And Peter was like, "All right."
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And
So
people, you know, once you think about it, man, that was his trade. That was his job, being a fisherman. That's what he did. It's like, okay, good. Okay, I'm done. I'm walking away.
that's hard, man. That's the thing. That's so hard to do. That's why I can't even blame the brother, because we don't know the back and forth he had between his spirit and his flesh about doing this in the first place. So for him to just say, you know what, I'm really going to surrender it and be obedient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are we to say anything?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Who are we? We thank you so much for joining us, Brother Steve, right here on the Believer's Bench. We've taken up so much of your time. But we do thank you for spending some time with us. How can people keep up with you if they ever want to see one of your broadcasts at Tennessee, or maybe if they're thinking about coming to the University of Tennessee, what would be your pitch to somebody who's, you know, they might be thinking of going to UTK?
Hey, I know, you know, we got the Pantone 151, man, that shade of orange that's unlike any other school in the country, and we're bursting at the seams, man. Last year we had almost 60,000 kids apply to come to school here. 60,000 kids. It shattered an all-time record. We're almost to 40,000 students in our enrollment. And there's just something good here, man. Great atmosphere, great people, and we pride ourselves on being an everything school, right? You want to come here and you want to get an education in supply chain management? Yeah, we've got a pretty good program here. What about engineering? This is a pretty good program. In your sports, well, you know, we just won a national championship in baseball, and we're number 4 in basketball. And when the preseason rankings come out for men's basketball, we'll probably be in the top 10, top 15. Women's basketball got a brand new coach. We'll be in the top 20 before you know it. Softball had a chance to go on and play in the College World Series. We were just a little bit short last year. I wish that I knew my handles in terms of Twitter or X or whatever we call it now, and Instagram, but I'll send that to you, Deke. And man, I'm here for you guys, and if I can ever do anything for you guys, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Most
Hey,
definitely.
that Nico kid's legit, huh?
Hey, man, he's not bad. He's not bad. The thing that's special about Nico, man, is that nothing really bothers him. He doesn't get too high, too low. Stays right there in the median. And you know, he's got the belief of all of his teammates, man. They're together. They're on a mission, and this seems like a special year, man. Could be a very, very special year.
All right now. Well, hey, we thank Steve for joining us here on the Believer's Bench, and we will see you next Wednesday right here, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And if you enjoyed this conversation, go ahead, subscribe to become a bench warmer, so you will be locked in with us every time we sit here on the bench. Until then, David Schiele, Cory Mose, be easy and be blessed.